You are welcome, my fashionista. What's up? How are you doing? So today's inspiration is this jumpsuit that I got from Instagram, and the only difference with what I'm making today is that I won't be putting the pockets. I'll just be adding sleeves. So let's get into the video. So this is the fabric that I'm working with. I've already cut my top pieces, front and back, folded into two as you see here, and the back has a zipper allowance of 1 inch as you see there, and the front is the one on top, and we'll be taking all the measurements from the center front. So from the shoulder line on top here, I have 16.5 inches as the half length plus 1 inch that I'll be using as the joining allowance. So shoulder measurement, dividing it by 2, I get 7.5 inches plus half inch. I mark 8, and from that 8 up there I go down by 8.5 inches. That 8.5 inches is half of the armhole measurement, and I get its midpoint at around 4.25. Then from that midpoint I move in by half an inch, then mark out the front armhole like that, and again from that midpoint there I mark my back armhole like that. So on top here of this line I mark 1 inch as the shoulder slant. Then I start marking out the neckline. So for the neck width I'm working with 4.5 inches, and the neck, the neck width is 3 inches, and the depth is 4.5 inches for the front. And for the back I worked with 1.5 as the depth, and the width remained the same as 3 inches as of the front. So after that I just connected the shoulder line and added half an inch as the joining allowance at the shoulder there. So after there guys, I just divide the bust measurement by 4 plus 1 inch for that, then 1 inch as the sewing allowance. So I also do the same, the waist measurement, dividing it by 4 plus 1 inch for that, 1 inch as the sewing allowance. If you want, you can even add some ease allowance. So after there I just connect those 2 points to shape the top pieces. Before cutting out, I mark where my dart will be, and that is marking the nipple to nipple measurement, dividing it by 2. I got 3.5 inches, then plus half an inch as the sewing allowance of that dart, and then I notched the point so that I know where my dart is. After there I cut out my shape, starting with the the back markings first, and then the front markings later, as you see. So this is how they turned out to be. So guys, now we have to mark the trouser. So before the trouser I also cut out some facings, as you see. For the front and the back I just duplicated the neckline, and the length of the facings is about 3.5 inches. So now let's start marking out our bottom part, or the trouser part. So I've marked a line here which is my waistline. So this is the front line, the front piece. So I've marked the waistline on top here, and I added just about half an inch on top there as the joining allowance to the top piece. So now I can just cut out the desired piece. So this is the waistline as I've told you, and to start out the measurements, I'm getting the hip measurement of 42 inches that I'm working with, dividing it by 4, and I get about 10.5 inches, and that 10.5 inches I add just 1 inch. I'm adding that 1 inch just because this is a jumpsuit, but to normal trousers you can even leave it at that. So instead of marking 11.5 inches, I'll just mark 12 inches and create my crotch line. So that is our crotch line. So from the crotch line to the ankle, I have about 28 inches. So I'm going to divide that 28 inches into 2. I get 14 inches. Then minus about 2 inches, I get 12. And from the crotch line, I mark that 12 inches to mark my knee line. So that is what I have there. You can even measure that knee line when you're taking your measurements on a human body. So guys, moving on, again I get the 42 inches, dividing it by 4 plus half an inch as is allowance, and then plus 1 inch as seam allowances at the side. Then I mark it along this crotch line, and after marking it at the crotch line, I again mark that at the waistline on top here. So it is about 12 inches. Then connect the points, and this is going to be our center front line. So this is now our center front line. So we are going to take all our measurements from this center front. So from this center front, I can now take my waist measurement on top here. So 34 is the waist measurement I'm working with. Dividing it by 4, I get 8.5 plus half an inch is allowance plus 1 inch as seam allowance, and I mark about 10 inches there. So again, I get the 42, dividing it by 4, I get 10.5 inches. So the 10.5 inches, again I divide it by 4, and I get about 2.6 inches. So 2.6 inches, I round off to 3 inches, and then I add that 3 inches onto that center front so that I mark out my crotch. So after there, I get the midpoint of this entire line from the 3 inches we've added onto the center front, or this entire crotch measurement. Dividing it by 2, I mark its midpoint there, and I go on marking that midpoint, the measurement that I got from dividing it by 2, and I mark it onto the knee line and the ankle line. Then I connect with the line there. Hope you're understanding everything. Please comment below if you have any questions. So after, on the sides here, I just carve out that side like that, and now I have to divide the knee measurement by 2. So the knee and the ankle measurement, we divide them by 2, and whatever I get is what I mark on the either sides of this line that I marked, this midpoint line that I marked that starts from the crotch line. So here I have about 19 inches. Dividing it by 2, I get about 9.5 inches. So on either side of this line, I mark 4 3/4 of an inch on the either side of this midpoint line that we formed, and then I add the seam allowances. So even at the ankle line, I'm working with about 14 inches. 14 dividing it by 2, I get 7 inches. So on each side of this middle point line, or that middle line, I mark 3.5 plus half an inch as the sewing allowance. Then connect all those points to form the shape of the trouser like this. So along here, around the thigh, this inner thigh or the inner leg, I just carve out by around half an inch, since that part is not always a straight line. So also here at the top, I just slant up my waistline by 1/2 inch and then connect it to the sides. The slanting is only at the center front line, and then I also add that joining allowance, also slanted. So guys, after that I just fold my hemming allowance and then cut out this shape, so that I use this shape to cut out the back piece of the trouser. So there are many, very many ways of cutting a trouser, and this is just one of them. There are many. So now we have 2 pieces for the front. So we are going to use this front to cut out the back. So I have folded another piece of fabric here into 2, and remember to leave some space at the side and even on top here where the waistline is. So laying this front piece onto this new piece of fabric, I measure 1 inch and I add it onto the side here, and that will be for the dart or the zipper allowance, whichever you consider to do. So I wanted to do a dart, but I forgot to add another 1 inch, so I left out the dart and I just used that excess for the zipper allowance. So at the center front here, to form the center back, we go up by 1 inch and then connect that 1 inch onto the other 1 inch that we've created at the side, or that we've added at the side. Then draw a line that connects those 2 points like that. So the back is always longer than the front at the waistline, just to accommodate where the bam bam is supposed to sit. And also at the crotch here, I just increased it by 3 inches. But if somebody is petite, small, you can use 2.5. Then from that 3 inches, I went down by 1/2 inch, and from the top here, I'm just going to connect those 2 points. From this 1 inch above here that we added, I just, carve out the new crotch for the back like that. So at the ankle line here, I just added 1 inch. At the knee line, I added 1.5 inches, connected all those points together, formed a new side line that we're going to be using at the back like that. So at the other side, I won't be adding anything. I'm only adding on one side, just like that. So now this is the shape of the back trouser, and I can just get my scissors and start cutting it out so that I start sewing. So remember that the other slant that we went down with at the front, we have to cut it out as you've seen me doing. You can even slant it by 1 inch or even 1/2 inch. It depends on you, but when it comes to jumpsuits, I always slant it by 1/2 inch. So now these are our pieces, 2 for the front and 2 for the back. And now we can start sewing. So to sew, I'll join my front pieces at the center front here by 1/2 inch. And then for the front, I'll measure out the zipper allowance here of about 7 to 8 inches. Then I'll join the remaining by 1/2 inch like that. And for the top pieces, I'll sew in 1/2 inch at the neckline there for the facings, both for the front and the back. And after there, this is what I have so far. After joining the facings, I took in my darts. Those are the darts, and then joined top piece to the bottom piece like that. And that is the front. And after all that, I did the same for the back, and this is what I have. I separated the back into 2 because you have to add a zipper a zipper there. So I joined the shoulders as you see, and also I joined this inner leg as you see, from this side to the other side. And moving on to finish up this armhole, the two armholes that we have onto this jumpsuit, I just cut out some sleeves as I mentioned before. So I have a video about sleeves, you can check it out on my channel. I couldn't include it in this video, it would be so long. These are the sleeves that I'm going to attach onto the jumpsuit, then finish up all the sides. And after finishing up the sides, I will attach my zipper, then finish up the hemline by folding twice like that, and then the jumpsuit will be done. It will look like this. So guys, this I had to put some darts at the back here for the trouser, but because I forgot to add that allowance, I left them out. But if you can, please always add that 1 inch. So this is how the trouser is looking like. It is the jumpsuit, not a trouser. But this is it at the mannequin. If you have any allowances, you can just take them in, but it's always better to work with allowances than or excesses than working with less. So this is how the jumpsuit is about. Thank you so much for watching.